Hello, everyone. We are back. We are back on the air. We are back without fear, and we are just back. We are excited. I'm excited to be back. It's been a while since we've been streaming, and we've been back doing this thing. I'm excited for everyone to listen and enjoy the show with us. I do have a outstanding individual that's going to be a co-host with us this week. Let's go ahead and bring him on. He can introduce himself.
Sup? How you doing? My name is Shah. I am the co-host of the Geek Gauntlet, and I'm here to join Tyler here on this trip through the Umbrella Academy.
Yes, thank you. The Geek Gauntlet is outstanding. You guys should definitely be checking it out. I love joining Shaw every week with that. That is, where can we find that, Shaw?
We are streaming on all major platforms for podcasting. Spotify. We're on I don't have a list on right now, but like you can pretty much find us. Just look for the Geek Gauntlet podcast. You should be able to
Google
find
it.
us.
We'll find it.
Yeah.
This right here is Geek Talks. Typically, it's Geek Talks with Evil Green Ranger. This season, this is going to be, I believe, season 5. I'm quotation marks of the podcast. And this season will be titled "Under the Umbrella" because, of course, we're going to be rewatching Umbrella Academy. Spoilers, but no, we are excited. Everyone, you probably just saw the Netflix posters got dropped recently. It's definitely getting us hyped up and getting excited for the new season. So I'm going to time this just right. So if you're following along with us at home, uh, each week a new episode will drop, and we will have it planned. So when we watch the finale of season 3, that episode will drop the week of the premiere. So this will be kind of a good way to get ramped up, get excited, and kind of get recapped as you're dialed in for season 4 and the final season of the Umbrella Academy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, the other fun thing along is we will be discussing some of the comic books. I have the 3 volumes here that have been released, and so kind of will be a fun way to like compare as we go through each episode to be like, oh, this character really follows, their plot here. Or this character does this, or this character looks like this. So it'll be kind of a fun way to comparison if you've never read the comic. If you have, you'll probably also be like, oh, okay, hold on. But I think it'll be fun. I think we're excited. I don't know, Shaw, have you rewatched this at all since it's been out?
Um, I'm pretty sure I rewatched season one when season two came out, and I'm pretty sure I watched season two when season three came out.
Okay,
But that
okay,
was it. I haven't rewatched season three, and I haven't rewatched all of it for a pretty long while.
gotcha. Okay, okay. I know. I don't think I like fully rewatched season 1, but I know that you go to a friend's house, you show them episode 1, they want to keep watching, so you end up watching like 4 or 5 episodes with them. But
Right, right.
I've done that, but I've never gone back and rewatched. I definitely have not gone back to rewatch season 2 or 3, so this will be really fun.
Hmm.
um, but I do remember absolutely loving this from the start. I don't think there was ever a dull moment, at least from what I can remember. Um, and I remember the soundtrack slapped.
Hmm. Hmm.
It had some bangers, and of course it would. When you have a story that is written by you know the lead singer of a punk emo rock band, My Chemical Romance, aka Gerard Way, of
Yep.
course you're gonna have a soundtrack that is just gonna blow your mind. And
Very true.
ironically, the soundtrack is not stacked with anything My Chemical Romance, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, that is true. That
Uh,
is very true.
Yeah, there's some Gerard Way stuff, but not like he really wanted to keep the aesthetic to the story, and so maybe some of his music didn't necessarily fit that aesthetic, so he didn't slide it in. So cool. He's keeping to that. He wants to keep that artistic style. I know the Gerard Way. I don't know how much you know about Gerard Way, but he's always been a
Hmm.
huge nerd and geek culture. I guess he's been, but even before My Chemical Romance, I guess he was like always had his head in comic books, and so he's always, that's been like if he's always joked about. I guess if he couldn't make music, he needed to be making comic books.
Right, right.
So, what is your expectations as we go into the rewatch?
Well, I remember the show, of course, and I remember I started watching it because I was into this comic book stuff back in the day. So anything comic book related, I would watch. And with this show, I was understanding a couple of the actors that were in it, like The actor playing number one was in Doctor Who at one point, so I knew him
Mhm.
from that. He also was in Merlin, which I've never seen before, but he was in that too.
He's a Game of
Um,
Thrones as well.
Ellen Page, now Elliot Page. She's been in a few things I've seen. Um, Anyone else I know? I think, of course, Mary J. Blige. I'm a child of the '90s, so of course I know her. And yeah, like it definitely was beyond my expectations after seeing it. S- So yeah, that was my expectations going into it, and yeah, we'll talk about everything else once we get to the
Yeah,
episodes.
yeah, of course. The only thing I know whenever I was trying to this is always a poor way to do it, but whenever someone be like, "Oh, what is Umbrella Academy?" and I would describe it, the only comparison I could even remotely get to, and this is not doing it justice, but it also feels kind of along the same path, is X-Men meets the Watchmen.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm like, it has that. It has the idea of old man bring a team together vibe as well as the like. Oh yeah, let's be all messed up because we're gonna be dark and realistic and gritty because what would happen if people were actually in the real world, like
Yeah, has those elements. Yeah, yeah.
so. Well, I guess then, unless there's anything else we could think of, I guess we have left now is to jump in and go watch. We are gonna actually guys gonna be watching the first two episodes of season one this week. Um, unless you want to say anything, Sean, should we just jump in and go enjoy the show?
Also, I do want to point out, the actor that plays Klaus. I do know him from a few things from Misfits, and also he was in The Mortal Instruments
Hmm.
in that movie. When they pretended like he wasn't becoming a vampire, werewolf by the end. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I hadn't actually watched the Mortal Instruments by the time this came out. It wasn't until
Yeah,
after, and I was
he
like,
he
"Oh,
was in
hey,
the
it's
movie,
that
not
guy."
the TV show.
Hmm?
He was in the movie, not the TV show. Just to say that.
No, no, yeah, yeah. I hadn't watched the movie. I remember when it came out, but I didn't go to watch it, and
Right, right,
so
yeah, I
I
get
think
that.
I actually just watched that movie maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago for the first time.
Yeah, he's
So
completely unrecognizable in that from this. Yeah,
he
very
he
different.
he was pop. I would look them up too. I think he did a show that was supposedly where people knew him from. I'd have to look it up again, but apparently he was like a big character in another show that I was like, I didn't even know
I
that.
think I'm Misfits. I think.
Which one?
Misfits. He's big on that show.
I'll have to look it up. It doesn't
Yeah, it
ring a
was a
bell.
British kind of superhero-ish show, kind of.
Hmm, I'll have to look into that. 'Cause that one does not ring a bell. But I don't know if there was really other than sorry, I don't mean a dead man, but Ellen Page. Um, other than them, I don't know if I immediately recognized too many actors on that date, like the day one when it all dropped. I was like, I
Yeah,
don't
I
know
think
if I
that's
know. So I mean, it was all fresh cast, new faces, nothing coming into it. So it was pretty cool.
yeah.
Well, I guess then we will go ahead and we will jump into episode one, guys, and we will be back in, I guess, just a few seconds for you guys.
Mhm.
All right, take care,
All right.
guys, and have a good one. All right, that was fun. We are back. Let me bring up some outstanding hosts with us today. Of course, Shaw. I know you were just here a minute ago. For everyone else, this was a few seconds. For us, time works a little differently, right?
Mm-hmm. Most
And of course,
definitely.
oh yeah, and of course, we actually have another person joining us this week. Say hi, Kat.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
So,
So yeah, we're all here. We got some extra people. We got to do some time traveling this week and watch some fun stuff, right?
Oh,
hmm
always.
So Kat, do you want to introduce yourself? Shaw got to introduce himself a few seconds ago, but Kat, let's introduce you real quick.
So I am Kat Holler. I am part of the social media team with Geek News Now. General geek, knowledge of everything, master of none. You know, um also, small business owner that, works on, fun geeky gifts for all of you tabletop gamers out there. So yeah, that's
What's
me.
up?
You know.
There you go. Well, everyone, I know you're ready to listen to. We just watched the first two episodes of Umbrella Academy season one. And how do we want to break this down, guys? Do we just want to dive into it? Do we want to break down what we just like how we felt right when we pressed start that first episode?
I mean, you're the host with the most, so I mean, it's your call, bro. You know?
Yep.
Well, I took some lovely notes. Hopefully, everyone else has some fun stuff to talk about. But it's been as I talked about a few, our listeners a few moments ago. It's been a long time since I've rewatched this, and so trying to like recollect everything as it was popping up. Like, oh yeah, that happened this earlier. That happened. Okay, and I didn't realize that it just jumps straight into it when it shows off the first child being born.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, okay. Like that's for some reason in my head, I thought we got that like later in the episode. But I'm like, oh no, it's just boom right there. I guess that's the perfect place to start as the beginning, right?
Yeah, and I think the first time I watched it, I must have been in the kitchen getting a snack at that point because I was like, "Oh, what's this?" You know.
What it's perfect, right? You get a kiss on the cheek, and then apparently babies are born. So that's just how it works,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you learned in sex ed, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Alabama, if you hold hands, but uh, but yeah, it was cool to see. It was interesting. I think they said was it 47 children is what they said were born that day.
I think
That sounds about right. Was it 47 or 27?
I think it
one
was
to two.
47.
Yeah, 1 to 2. I'm not sure.
And what I like though is like there's 47 people born, born. He found 7 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't necessarily say what happens to the rest, implying who knows. And of course, I reread the comic book, the comparison notes and stuff, and I won't be going play by play by anything in the comic versus the show until after we get to the end, just because the show is 10-hour-long episodes, and the comic is, at least volume 1 is what, 6? Uh, very kind of short comics. But no, in the comic, I believe it does kind of like just imply that they just like who knows what happens to the rest. Like they're just kind of all, like. I mean, I guess
Well, I think coming from someone who only has the show knowledge, so I never read the comic.
Mhm.
I think it kind of leads itself to, and we'll talk this a little bit more later, is the agency that's hunting them down, and some of the I don't want to call them bad guys, but let's just call them like superhumans that they run into as time goes on. Maybe that's where the other like 30, 40 some odd kids are.
Possibly, yeah, possibly.
Yeah, because just kind of like even with the X-Men, or anytime you start talking about someone with powers, superpowers, inhumans, mutants, whatever you want to call them, there are those that are taught how to hone their ability, and there are those that wherever they are at for whatever reason, it's like hidden away, and like, we're going to put you under the stairs so no one knows about you, and don't you ever let this slip out in public.
Harry Potter.
Yeah. Well, but even, I mean, some of the, like, when you get into like some of the other, not just Umbrella Academy, but like X-Men, I think it was a really good reference that a lot of people know of.
Oh yeah.
There were several of the mutants that ended up on Magneto's team who basically they were shamed their entire lives for having a power.
Well, I mean, the origin of Rogue. I mean, she was basically manipulated because Mystique's character like took her in, saw like the how much she hated herself because of her power, so she took her in and offered her somewhere like kindness and peace and that kind of stuff. And so yeah, someone actually loved her, someone cared about her, so she took it in.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it gives you that good basis saying, hey, we've got these 7 characters here that had someone interested enough in their power for whatever their motive was to give them a good home where give them a home where they could explore their abilities.
I would say Sir Reginald, we'll have our take here, but I don't know how we feel about Sir Reginald and his parenting tactics.
I mean, how many people don't want to be raised by a robot mom and a monkey?
Oh man, Pogo's great. I love Pogo.
Yeah.
So yeah, we jump into it. Essentially, guys, for who haven't seen it and following with the show, essentially this is going to be 6 individuals that are super powered and have been adopted. Essentially, 7 kids have been adopted, but 6 of them have powers. Have been adopted to uh, just kind of train with this eccentric. I think they label him as the world's most eccentric billionaire. Um, Sir Reginald. Oh God, I just forgot his last his H.
Hargrave.
Hmm?
Hargrave.
That's right. That's right. And he is going to train these kids to apparently be superheroes. Of course, I joke that it's called the Umbrella Academy, and I didn't really learn how to make any umbrellas. I'm kind of upset about that. But no, and so we kind of see how the story kind of jumps back and forth with showing us a little bit of the past of their upbringing, but we also kind of see that these 6, 7, however you want to look at it, individuals are how they're doing in modern day. Essentially, they're all messed up from this guy, and they're all kind of going to be brought back together because their dad or father character is been pronounced dead from a heart attack. They all come into the house. They all come back, and you can see that they've all kind of hated each other. For I'm sure we're going to find out all the different reasons why everyone hates each other throughout the season. But is there any characters that right off the bat in that first episode that kind of stand out for anyone?
Well, I mean, Pojo, like, just randomly showing talking chimpanzee, just and then never ever explaining it. Like we don't even understand his origin to like the second season, if I'm not mistaken.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, well, yeah, that's the comic does lightly touch on that, but not by much. I think the idea we're supposed to go into this is like it's an alternate reality. Roll with it, because I mean, even that first scene we see, or when Sir Reginald is searching, going to when he goes to Russia or wherever they are for that first child, the ship he flies in with looks very high tech, and it's supposed to be, isn't it supposed to be like 1980 something or 1990 something?
Let's just say that has something connected to his past, personally.
Us knowing the future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I would kind of suspect that this is kind of an alternate timeline to our own. It doesn't run linear to us, and so it's you're gonna have some things. So clearly, there's something in this reality where a chimpanzee is now talking and a member of the family. Good
Yeah,
old
and I think, for me, like my background, like while I am an only child, I come from a very large family on my dad's side.
Mhm.
So seeing like how everything kind of balanced out when everyone shows up, I'm like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, that tracks. You know, and I think one of the things it kind of goes to show is it gets back to the argument that you always have when it comes to science,
Mhm.
which is going to develop better children, nature or nurture. Which is something that they've touched on. And I mean, just because X-Men is the closest similar kind of universe that I can think of with the kids from the Umbrella Academy,
Mhm.
that was definitely an argument that you saw in X-Men as well.
Oh yeah.
Because here's all these people that, like, okay, you were taken from whatever your life could have been. No one knows, right? To live with this eccentric billionaire. You were turned into celebrities at like elementary age.
Yeah, I think they're supposed to all be roughly about maybe 11. Well, in the age range of what 10 and 13 when they first unveil themselves to the world.
Yeah, and when they first have that first scene in the premiere where they're at the bank stopping the bank robber, they were like preteens at that point.
Yeah.
So, they were celebrities. They had this status. They had money. Hargreaves understood that he had his shortcomings, which is why he created Mom. In my opinion, he understood that there were just certain things that he'd never be able to relate to with them because he was looking at the bigger picture. He was looking at the whys, the hows, like, because in his way, I mean, it's how do I create something that keeps them safe? So, I mean, teaching them to work together, teaching them all of these things for him was, I'm teaching them how to stay safe and better the world. But he understood that there's like a nurturing aspect that he couldn't relate to.
Mm-hmm.
So he created Mom, who is basically a very, very advanced AI who's designed to figure out what the kids need.
I almost worry just from how when we see those flashbacks and how he reacts to the kids and Mom, if he almost created her just so she could do the meaningless task that he just felt was below him or beneath him.
I wouldn't necessarily say that he felt it was below him,
mm-hmm.
but it's something that he couldn't relate to the same way.
So have you guys just not seen the end of the season in a long time?
Oh no, I'm aware. I'm just
I mean,
not.
Trying not
to give him a lot of credit.
Our listeners might not have seen this yet. They might be like just jumping in excited with us. Come on.
All I'm saying is y'all giving him a lot of credit.
Well,
Not Shaw over here hinting at things.
Yeah, I understand that aspect of it too, but
I'm making a mountain out of a molehill over here.
Yeah,
but it goes to show, though. What are you guys talking about? What?
Well, it's also the concept, though, that money doesn't buy happiness.
I think that's something poor people say. I think.
Yeah. What's that? Oh, money can't buy happiness. You just don't have enough money to solve your problems. It's fine. But I think that kind of seeing how they all have their own issues.
Mm-hmm. No, they do.
This guy obviously still has billions.
Mm-hmm.
He was the guy that went back in time and invested in Apple. Bought the stocks cheap. So he's still living very well. Still has that billionaire life.
Mm-hmm.
And all the kids, though, and some, I mean, they've all gone on to do their own thing. Some of them have gone on to do, the one sister is an actress, making her own millions.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of goes to show that just because you have that kind of money, it doesn't buy you happiness. That there's a lot more involved in having that happy home, which unfortunately is so often portrayed in television that, oh, if you guys have plenty of money, then everyone in the house is going to be happy. And so I think this kind of touches on that in a little, more of a dark, cynical way.
I think
money can buy you happiness.
I think I had compared this to I said X-Men meets Watchmen, in that dark, cynical, twisted little bit way. And so Shaw, you said your standout was Pogo. Kat, who was your standout character in that first episode?
Luther. Well, it's a toss between Luther and Five.
Luther and Five. Okay. I'm curious. Out of curiosity, what made you drawn to Luther?
So here is this one everyone else is literally living in the regular world. Mm-hmm. He was sent to the moon.
Mm-hmm. He's Moon Boy.
He's had a way to get back. What kept him there? Was it that after being raised with 7 siblings in that chaos and that he was just like, I'm done, bro?
Well, we see when they're showing the family portraits, each one slowly one by one dwindling away, and he's the last one to remain. So he's the last one to try to do as father said, and so father had this desire to protect the world, and so he's just doing whatever dad says.
Right, but here's the thing, though. At a certain point, at his size, because really there is no one that Luther has to listen to if he doesn't want to listen. Let's be honest about that. His size, his superpower, his ability, basically, he doesn't have to take anything from anybody.
Obviously, we'll bleed some episode 2 stuff because that's the whole point of this conversation. But how do we feel right off the bat? Obviously, we know going forward about them more, but those first 2 episodes, did we really all get a sense of what everyone's powers were?
More or less. I mean, I think some not
Yeah.
as much.
It touched on it. I don't think it touched on the junkie brother. I'm
Yeah,
blanking on his name.
Klaus. Similarly for Ben.
Well,
Okay.
Ben, he was the one that could change into animals, right?
He can.
Kind of.
He was the one that I thought we saw in the bank that turned into the octopus.
Well, he doesn't turn into it.
Well,
Yeah.
okay.
He kind of. Well, as far as the show is concerned, he has tentacles that come out of his chest.
Yeah.
But in
Fair.
the comics, it's very, very different. He kind of
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
comics, like summons monsters and cages and shit.
Yeah, it's like a portal to like dimensional creatures that just can come out of his chest and be used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're right. In the comics wise, almost the majority of these characters are drastically different. Uh, it's I no hate because I absolutely love the comic and I absolutely love the show. They're very very different creations to the point that I would say the only real factor is a handful of like the names and I guess some background points, but really how the plot unrolls and how things happen. There's nothing that's the same.
Yeah. Like, and so, like, I remember watching it the first time, like with Klaus, I wasn't 100% sure in episode 1
Mhm.
if it was that he could talk to the dead
Mhm.
or if he had like either a telekinetic or like how you see in some shows where it's like someone can come into a crime scene and like see what happened
Mhm.
kind of deal. So I wasn't sure like
Mhm.
which one of his it was until the first watch through anyway, until like season 2 when it
Oh,
shows him in the tub.
what? So even by like so at the end of episode 1, there's a hint, but when you go into episode 2, when he's talking to Ben,
That's right. Yeah, it was when he was actually having the conversation. That's what it was.
yeah,
That
because
kind of gave like, okay, so he can talk because when Ben first shows up, Ben just shows up at the house with everybody else. So I don't think anybody fully knows that he's dead yet. Well, I mean, like the audience.
well, the first time we actually see Ben is in the back of the car with Klaus when he goes with
He was at the house.
is he?
Him and Klaus walked in the door together.
I must have missed that. I thought the first time we see Ben is when he's in the hood in the back of the car when he's talking.
Yeah.
No, they were in the house, but Ben is talking at that point. So like that's where it's kind of like you don't see Ben when Klaus is trying to break into the desk. But when they're all in the main part of the
I feel
floor,
dumb. I just watched it and I didn't see that.
Yeah, you're misreading this because the first time they introduce him is when he's in the car, and that's when they put his name right underneath. That's the first
Yeah.
time they introduce him, other than the flashback.
Yeah, well,
maybe
yeah, we see him in the
I'm
flashback.
misremembering them because I remember him being in the house,
In
and
episode
then
2,
when they were in the car and he was talking to Diego.
Yeah, that's way after.
so yeah, at the very end of episode 1, Ben doesn't talk or anything. What happened? We see
Yeah.
Klaus is in the back of the car with Diego after Diego goes to the pier to throw away the monocle that he stole.
Yeah, and he's talking about we want pancakes.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
that's way after.
yeah, that's the very end of towards the end of the episode.
Yeah.
And then
See,
so
and I could have sworn
episode
that
2,
Ben was in the house when they were all having that argument in episode 1.
I didn't.
The only
See
part of Ben that was there was the statue that got knocked
Yeah.
over. That's it. Ben himself wasn't there.
Yeah.
Like,
I may have to go back and double check that one then.
Yeah.
Because I could have sworn they were all arguing about, like, they were all sitting there and they were like talking about like, you're ridiculous. This wasn't a murder. Like he just had a heart attack. Like they were all having kind of that conversation.
Mhm.
Ben wasn't talking, but he was there.
I must not have seen it because I didn't read that. That's my bad. I must. I'll take a look there.
There might have been him in the corner or something, maybe.
Yeah.
But let's talk about when they first all introduced. It seemed like the only person that was nice to anyone right off the bat. Allison was nice to Vanya when she first greets her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everyone else, we see that Diego seems to be just a dick to everyone.
He's their equivalent of Nightwing.
Was Nightwing a dick to everyone?
Kinda.
Right after leaving Batman, sure, but
yeah.
Okay. And then we, obviously we have Klaus, who seems to be. We obviously right off the bat we saw that he's a junkie, and we see his introduction, which was hilarious. Uh, the fact that like he's getting out of, you know,
Rehab, yeah.
yeah, and he's like, "Oh, see you again. See you next time." Like it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's like a punch card for him, basically. Him getting revived in the ambulance, and the guy's just like this is just a normal thing with him.
Mhm.
But we see he's trying to steal stuff at his dad's office. We see he's very much eccentric and kind of all over the place. So he seems relatively friendly, but also cynical. So he doesn't seem like he's being a dick to anyone. He just seems, I'm just
He's
here, fuck
indifferent.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, he's indifferent to everybody but himself. He's like,
Luther. Obviously, he's interested in Allison, but I really don't see him having strong opinions towards anyone else necessarily. I'm trying to think
him and Diego kind of butted heads, but I wonder if that kind of comes from where like Diego has had to spend all this time and like energy learning and training. I mean, it's kind of like, and you see this dynamic in a lot of superhero team ups.
Mhm.
You've got the guy with all the skills and the knives and the agility and this, that, the other, and then you got the big guy. And the big guy's always kind of like, man, it's okay. Let's take a minute. And the guy with like all like the skills is like, no, we got to do it this way. And he's like, it's okay. Like let's talk this through, man.
They both
So I feel like Diego
one
is
and two they compete for that.
lack of aggression.
I get you. But we see their dynamic. We see them interacting as such. Obviously, so Luther is worried that there might have been, a murder of some sort because he says, Dad last time he talked was sounding erratic. I think or is that what he says, erratic or sounds? Right, something along those lines. And he's like, also, hey, Dad is missing the monocle. Have you ever, seen that? And so Diego's very much like, why are you trying to accuse the family, yo? Like, fuck you, bro. Why? Obviously, we've already said he had the monocle and he throws it in the water. Do we have any idea yet in those first two episodes why he has the monocle?
Seemed more like a personal thing, like he just, had a lot of anger towards his father, probably.
Okay. So
Like,
well, why not tell Luther right off the bat? It definitely gives a little bit of suspicion.
because he doesn't care.
There's that. That's probably true. As we go into episode 2, we start to get. Well, okay. I guess before we jump fully there, 5 jumps out. Comes back from the past. Who's been missing for I think they say 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
What did you guys think of that? Just that craziness of him coming through the portal.
It was cool.
It looked.
I just love the fact
cool.
like he comes out and he's like he's like a 50-year-old man in a 12-year-old's body.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had to pick me that this is just my consciousness. I just had to shove it into a me that is existing in all timelines. So here I am. I think the best part was when he was upstairs trying to find clothes.
Yeah.
And it's like
all schoolboy clothes.
Yeah, like, oh, this is it.
The I love when the portal opens and they're all trying to figure out what to do, and Klaus just picks up the fire extinguisher and throws it in there, and he's like, "What are you doing? Would you have a better idea?" just
Mm-hmm.
like what? Oh, we see who's going to be the crazy one, the wild card. I will admit, so towards the end of that episode 1, we get that really cool fight scene at the donut shop.
Yes.
I forgot that happens in episode 1. I thought that was episode 2, and when it happens, that's a brutal scene, is it not?
Mm-hmm. It was nice. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was brutal, but it also goes to show that, at any point in time, yes, can some of these powers be used for not good things? Yes, but that's why it's important, like the importance of understanding when you use it and when you don't.
Okay, Uncle Ben. Okay.
Well, I mean, it's true though. I mean, think about it. Five
get
could use his power at any point in time, good, evil, otherwise,
Mhm.
and no one would be able to stop him.
We do see that there must be, as we get into episode 2,
Well,
there's some limitations, and yeah, we don't know how those limitations. I don't even think he knows those limitations. But
yeah.
they're there.
But it also alluded to, with Five coming back,
Mm-hmm.
kind of what we touched on earlier, that Hargraves has time traveled.
Possibly, yeah. How since he had that knowledge of, like, what is it? He goes, spatial jumps is nothing compared to time travel. You're jumping into what is it? The ocean. You're sinking deep into the cold ocean
Yeah.
below the ice and coming out as an acorn.
Yeah, basically. And so, I mean, that kind of hinted the fact that his dad had that conversation with him, or Hargraves had that conversation with him, that Hargraves had time traveled somehow.
Okay, that's okay.
Of course, I also loved, it was also episode 2, like after that fight scene,
Mhm.
when the agency shows up. I don't remember what they call them.
Hazel and Cha-Cha.
Yeah, Hazel and Cha-Cha. When they show up, but it shows that they're looking for a much older person.
Oh yeah. They have that old
Because they're
photograph.
looking for one of their own, but they're looking for him as the adult version that they have been working with,
or at least are aware of.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think they want to say they haven't met him before.
Well, because they said that it's strange to be hunting one of their own.
Yeah, but how they word it, I don't think that they've ever actually like worked with him, because they, when they first see his powers, like, well, they said he was special. Like, I think they've never actually worked with him, but they're aware of
Gotcha.
his existence. At least that's what I'm to take away from that. I don't know what you, Shaw.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you guys like Hazel and Cha-Cha?
Yeah, they were cool.
I think Cha-Cha is hilarious.
You do?
And the reason they work is it's like a Ren and Stimpy. Like, Hazel's just so chill and like, oh, okay, well, it'll be all right. We'll make it work. We'll get by. Like, I'm really frustrated with these things because, like, man, they're cutting our budget and this, that, the other. But Cha-Cha is like, this is some crap. Let's go shoot some things. Like,
they're an interesting group, that's for sure. The actor who plays Hazel, I just recently realized, I don't know if you guys had ever watched Mindhunters on Netflix.
mm-mm.
Okay, it's a based off a true story, off of when the FBI was developing the term serial killer.
Okay.
And that actor plays God, I've just blinked on the character, but a real life murderer back then, and he's terrifying in Mindhunter. And so it's so funny to see him be this character that's kind of almost likable here. But I like him. When he shows up, he's complaining about, the briefcase is heavy. He's not going to want to carry it around. He's complaining about how like you said, they cut his budget. No longer have 2 rooms. We only get 1 room. Stupid bureaucrats, blah blah blah. Like, it's good to know that capitalism still sucks.
Well, I mean, you really thought that was going to go away? I mean,
alternate reality. We could hope anything, right? But we, at the beginning of the episode 2, we do kind of see that Five gets to open up about what happened. He reveals that the end of the world is happening in 8 days, and he has to find a way how to stop it. He reveals that he was in the future for a long time, and he couldn't find his way back. He reveals that he was there, I think they say 30 years. I think he revealed that he was
verify.
He keeps tiptoeing until we get the reveal, but he keeps tiptoeing around like, we did a lot together, or we did it, and we were like, well, what do you mean we? And he would always like change the subject. And obviously we ended up finding out that he had a character named Dolores that was with him, and that is his dummy that he found from a convenience store. Not a convenience store.
44 years.
44 years. Sorry.
Yeah, but I see where you got, because it was the equivalent of 23.5 million minutes.
Crazy.
Mhm.
I will say, again, this comic is six short comics, and this is 10-hour-long episodes, so they had to add some stuff. Hazel and Cha Cha are not in. At least they're not in volume 1. I have not made it to volume 2 or 3. We will get there, but yeah, they're not in volume 1 at all. So these are characters, as far as I'm aware, brand new to the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
So some some flair to it. Got to put something in there. We also see. I really thought was cool. When we see number 5's like version of the future. It's interesting that he sees his entire like family all laying there dead, defeated. I can only imagine like just the mental capacity of like realizing that people laying on the ground are all dead or your family members, and then having to live with that for the next 30, 40 years. Like that's got to be some crazy stuff.
Well, and I think because he doesn't know where he's going. Like he made the snap, and it's like, all right, where did I just go?
Mhm.
No one's around. There's nothing. Like none of the things. Like even when there is a disaster, like you expect if he'd shown up like in the middle of it, that there would be emergency crews, police, something.
Mhm.
But with the way that it happened, like there was just nothing, and it was just like silence. Like there were no animals, there were no birds, no nothing.
Yeah. And I think when we get into more episodes, it touches on episode 1 a little bit, but we get in episode 2 is that we kind of see all of their relationships as they've gone over the years. So we see that Allison got married, had a kid, then got divorced. We don't know necessarily why yet, obviously in the show, but that'll be interesting to see, as well as this. She clearly has a strong hatred for her power in itself. Because again, Luther brings up like, oh, you still have your power because I don't see you use it, and she says like, I don't really like to use it anymore. I made a wish and I couldn't take it back. We see that Diego has a kind of a relationship with like this police officer. We see that he's, we got some friends down at like the gym and where he's have his hideout. We see 5. Well, 5 just has Dolores, I guess. But I mean, it's interesting to see these characters kind of have those relationships. But we do see that Vanya is one that doesn't, because she was on the outside. She was not really part of the family, and of course, most of the family kind of seems to dislike her after she apparently, we see that she wrote a book, that clearly is maybe not necessarily showing the Umbrella Academy in the best light.
Well, but she was writing it based upon her experience.
Mm-hmm.
And, one of the things like it also goes to show with Vanka is that in some ways her experience with the Umbrella Academy shaped her entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that in the scene in the bathroom where she's talking to the other violinist or cellist. I don't remember which is she plays.
Cellist.
Cellist, yeah. Where she's been playing all this time, so she has all this talent and she's always practicing, so she should be getting better.
Mm-hmm.
But she's just being kept at ordinary.
Mm-hmm.
So here's just kind of another thing in her life where she's being told that you should be extraordinary. Like that's why he found you and paid your parents for you.
Mm-hmm.
But here you are just being normal. You're not. But it also gets back into that and just thinking of just like kids in general.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of situations, you may have kids that are incredibly talented, incredibly smart, and brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
But when you put them in an environment with other kids who are brilliant and extraordinary in other areas that they're not,
mm-hmm.
suddenly they're ordinary.
Yeah, no.
And so for Vanka, I think because she was basically just told, oh, you're just ordinary your entire life, that is carried through. Even though you hear her and she's a beautiful musician.
Mhm.
But it's like, oh, you're just ordinary.
You have to feel for her in that moment when we see in the flashback at the bank. It's like, oh, why can't I be with them? And because there's nothing special about you. Just like all brutal there. And then we also see them all getting these like forced tattoos as children, and since she's not special, she's not getting one, so she's taking that marker and drawing the umbrella on her arm. Like, oh man, this kid has been like very much neglected. Left to her own devices and just had to survive, I guess. We do see though in episode 2 when Vanya tries to communicate with Allison gets pretty harsh with her. There was a pretty quick turnaround from the episode 1 of her being, polite to her to being like, "Go to hell, Vanya." Like what do you guys think of that?
Shaw, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it was a turnaround, like, kind of expected. I mean, the book was, giving away Stevenson talking about them, so kind of made sense.
Well, I think she might have been caught in that heat of the moment because she's just, she's dealing with the situation with her daughter, not being able to see her kid and her, her ex-husband. So she's probably just caught up in that anger and frustration. But still, though, man, she just gets so harsh and cut. Like, just goes to show these people cut hard. They cut deep.
Well, and I think for that though, it's for Allison. It's here's Vanka who's been able to live this somewhat normal life.
Mm-hmm.
So she got out of this. She doesn't, like you kind of touched on. Allison's almost resents her power in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, her power, she glamours people. Like that's her power, really. Mm-hmm. And so because I think maybe there was a time when her power wasn't fully in her control,
mm-hmm.
until she learned how to control it with the I've heard a rumor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That there may have been times when she manipulated people unintentionally.
Oh, probably. Yeah.
And so for her life is never normal because she has to always be very conscious of what she's saying, doing, etc., in order to not manipulate people. And people who know about her power probably still accuse her of manipulating them, even when she has not.
Oh yeah, you can only imagine, because if you're in that situation, how can you prove that you didn't manipulate someone? Like how?
Right. And so, she's got all these things going on in her personal life, and here is the one person who's been able to have a normal life coming to her and being like, hey, this is really rough, and I'm sorry you're going through it. It's that, like, she lashed out of jealousy for that normalcy that Vanka has.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. How do we feel about, I know we talked a little bit about Mother, but how do we feel like when that first reveal, obviously in the beginning episode, we see that she's kind of off, but we could kind of like write it off as like, oh, maybe she's just dealing with grief differently. But then when we see that like cord come up and like basically plug into her, oh shit, she's like an android. Like, what was that?
Well, so from that, for me, I picked up on the fact of, oh, I bet you she's an android.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Because she didn't age.
I guess I didn't think about that for the flashbacks. I was like, I guess she probably was in some of those flashbacks, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was in the flashbacks a few times, and she never aged.
That's fair. I probably didn't.
That for me, I was like, oh, okay, so she must be an android or an AI of some sort.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it was definitely an interesting. I like the actress who's playing her because she's doing a good job at this. Just like, what can I? Children, what do you need? Like, clearly just still running on the same program she was designated for. It's an interesting dynamic for sure. Seeing these people all interact who are just so drastically different, seeing that they're all just, they're all connected over this weird, shitty bond of hatred and friendship. I guess that is family.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's normal for family, right?
Well, I mean, I think in large families you see it more often than you do in smaller families, because in larger families you're all bonded because of this is who our parents are. And large families have these unique dynamics. Like I can sit there and I can look at the Umbrella Academy and I'm like, oh, let me start naming off the family members. Like I can tag those people in my family. Like
Yeah.
and but I think because of the fact that you're not seeing large families, you don't see families as often now that have like 7, 8, 9 kids.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of a dynamic that's kind of gone away in recent generations, which is why a lot of people
for that.
Well, yeah, well that too. Like, nobody's got a farm that needs 8 kids to work it anymore, you know. We'll put the AI to work instead, you know. Yeah,
That's the future. Come on, Brainiac's coming out. We know that.
you know. So I think that's also part of the entertainment of it, is seeing how they all work together as a family, but they're only really bond as a family, especially in this situation. Like genetically, they're not even family, any of them.
No.
Is
All adopted.
this man who brought them together and taught them how to harness their power.
I do like that this show has no interest and no desire to bring up that these children were born in an instant.
Yeah.
They were all, it just goes, yes, 47 children were born. The only strange thing about it was those women that had the kids were not pregnant the morning they woke up.
Yeah, like in less than 24 hours, these babies formed.
And it never comes back to that. At least in those first 2 episodes, it does not come back. It's just like, nope, we're moving. You got that knowledge. We're moving forward. As we wrap up episode 2, we see that they, Allison Pogo shows Allison that they have a surveillance system. The joke shows, oh, families have home movies. We have a surveillance system. Oh God, like, Allison clearly sees something on the screen, which is kind of funny when you think about it, because if you have this surveillance system set up, someone would automatically want to go look and see the night that dad died. You'd want to go figure out, well, what, if he really did die of a heart attack, let's see it. Like, why is Pogo not seen? Do you think Pogo led her to that for that purpose, or do you think it was unintentional?
Maybe.
I mean, have you ever seen a talking chimp go into a police station to report a murder? I mean, it may simply be because even with Pogo, you really don't see him until it's just the family there. Like, you saw the scenes of, like, the coroners, the crime scene. Mom was there.
Mm-hmm.
Pogo you didn't really see until the family arrived.
I think Pogo never leaves the house. I think Pogo just like...
because talking chimp.
I mean, that could be it too.
At that point, even in the space-time continuum, even today, like right here in 2021, people aren't ready to deal with talking wildlife.
Fair.
So
maybe there's still a little some anger towards chimps, I guess.
Well, I mean, I think it's the talking part. Like, people have seen Planet of the Apes. They know once they can start talking, it's all over for us.
You know what, though? I almost want to argue that in this reality, there's no way Planet of the Apes should exist, because if that's the case, Hargraves is made of a dire mistake.
Well, that's why he started with chimps, not gorillas.
I guess that's something.
So I think it may have been a matter of, if he suspects that there could have been foul play, he knows that Mom's AI isn't designed to deal with that.
Yeah.
And so then he knows like one of the children has to be the one to bring it up.
Yeah.
Luther's already convinced.
Mm-hmm.
Allison will get everybody else on board, not because of her power, but because she has learned how to negotiate and discuss without using her power.
You mean she didn't hear a rumor? No.
Yeah, so that's why I think Pogo maybe brings it up.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's face it, yes, it was surveillance footage, but it was research footage for Hargraves.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's all.
I mean,
we saw he was putting like wires on the kids' heads when they're sleeping to monitor their brain waves while they slept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, so that all that surveillance system was research for him.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think Pogo brought it up intentionally to kind of be like, so this system is still working.
Mm-hmm.
To try to get other people to Luther's side to maybe look into it a little further. Also to maybe bring the family back together because, I mean, yes, Pogo's a talking chimp who lives in solitude with an AI robot. But chimpanzees as like the animals themselves, if you've ever watched any nature studies on them, they're very much about community.
Well, he had Hargraves.
Well, right. But he had Hargraves as much as those kids had Hargraves. But there would still be that sense for him, especially after seeing how distant they are with each other, to want to bring them back together, and maybe bringing them back together is investigating the murder of the man who raised them.
I will say I really did love Diego's. Anyone want to say Pogo? Anyone want to say any words? He was a monster. Yeah, that gets me. That's I feel that.
No. When Klaus knocked over the urn. When Klaus was trying to get his dad to talk to him.
Oh, when he's just like
in exasperation, he's just like, ugh. And then he realizes as he stretched out his hands that he knocked the urn over.
And he just starts laughing, didn't he?
And he's like,
nah. Yeah, Klaus, man. That that's great. I will say also with these first two episodes, that soundtrack kills, right? Like it is.
I would have expected nothing less than a killer soundtrack.
Right.
Considering the creator of the comic.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, and here's the thing: we do get in each season. I think there's at least one song from Gerard Way. Now, not any My Chemical Romance, which is kind of surprising, but we do get at least one song of Gerard Way. As much as like I kind of give him kudos for that, but I mean, I guess inside of me, I was like, why not put more of his music? But I'm like, I guess I get it. You wouldn't want to flood the whole soundtrack with just your music, but I mean,
well, and I don't think, unfortunately, My Chemical Romance isn't everybody's cup of tea, but it also would stand to reason that it wouldn't be the cup of tea of all of the characters because of all their very vastly different personalities.
Yeah. Which one of them do you think would have listened to My Chemical Romance?
Diego. He's the only one with that much edge.
Diego? Yeah. Okay.
He's the emo child.
Not Klaus?
No, Klaus is way too high.
Is Klaus more the mindless self-indulgence?
Yeah, like Klaus is definitely more like he hops genres depending upon what drug he's on.
That joke that Allison and Luther make about Diego with his outfit, and then they're like, "Do you think he wears that in the shower?" Yes. Like they're just so ready to, you can see that those two have a great dynamic. But no, I really love the was Tiffany song, right? Wasn't it? I think we're alone now. That whole scene where they're all just doing the whole dancing in there. I think that says a lot about each character because of their dance style. We see that, like, Diego actually likes to get into it, but he doesn't want anyone to see, so he's got to shut the door. He's got to make sure no one's watching. We see Klaus is just like dancing with Dad, like, oh, whatever, just dance with the urn. Luther doesn't really know what he's doing, and he's just kind of like going with it. He's just kind of grooving. Allison's got the boa, and she's just kind of going with the flow. Like everyone's getting into it. I'm like, I love that scene so much. And it's great.
Yep.
So I think good soundtrack. I think it was a great start for those first 2 episodes. I'm definitely excited to see where episode 3 will take us in this interesting road. Again, I'm still holding out that we're going to get taught how to make umbrellas at some point. It's got to come up, right?
Well, so and hear me out here. This is never discussed,
Mhm.
but I think the reason it's called Umbrella Academy is so because basically you have all these people that have these unique abilities
Mhm.
under one roof or under one umbrella.
I can see where you're going for with that, and I know of a few elements that will come to play later that I think
Mhm.
have
Mhm.
reason, but I could see that. I can see that. But no, I'm excited. I guess unless there's anything else you guys want to say, unless you can think of anything great and exciting that we didn't talk about for episode 1 and 2.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, I think we hit the highlights.
There we go. Well, again, to our viewers, it was fantastic having you guys here. Hopefully, you guys will join us next week for round 2 as we jump into episode 3. Of course, if you want to listen and hear more of our crazy shenanigans, Kat, Shaw, do you guys want to talk about where they can find us? Of course, every Saturday night.
Yeah, of course, we're Geek Gauntlet will be airing tonight, Saturday at 10 o'clock. Please come join us. We're on pretty much all major places where you find your podcasts. And yeah, Kat, your turn.
Yeah, like I said, every Saturday night we are over there with the Geek Gauntlet. You know, so hey, if you're already here on YouTube, you're looking for someone to watch, just come and chat with us. And more importantly, you've heard our fan theories for the last hour. Comment down below, let us know what your thoughts are. Like, who are your favorite characters? What were your favorite moments? What are you hoping, if this is your first watch through, what are you hoping to kind of see out of this?
Yeah, exactly. And if you are following along with us, we have this timed exactly. So as each episode comes out each week, this will lead up to exactly season 4's premiere. So you don't have to worry about oh, I need to make sure I'm catching up and getting rushed up before. No, we will have you covered. We're gonna make sure that each thing's coming out right as it goes, so you'll be able to slide right into the first episode of season 4 with all the knowledge you need. So I guess then we will tune in next week. I believe this is actually coming out on Monday. So uh, I'll have these dropping Monday, so essentially every Saturday. And of course, Kat, you do a lot of stuff with Geek News Now. Of course, that's why they have it
I
down at
do.
the bottom there. So go check out Geek News Now. Always a great place to see some good articles. So other than that, guys, I guess we will either see you on the Geek Gauntlet or we'll see you next Monday for the next round, episode 3 of the Umbrella Academy.
All right, take care.
All right, guys, take care.